Sacred Heart Academy provides students with managed AppleIDs. These managed AppleIDs are an incredible tool because they provide students with a tremendous amount of backup space in their iCloud account. When we set up student iPads, one of the first things we instruct them to do is back up their school files to iCloud. And this is a safeguard so that if something happens to the student's physical iPad, they can still recover those files that they need for school. On Freshman Orientation Day, students opened their Mail app. They opened this email from Apple School Manager, copied their password, noted their Apple ID, and they used that information to log into their iPad. So we scrolled to the top on the left bar under Settings. We clicked Login to iPad here, and we used the information from the email to sign in to our managed Apple ID. Let me zoom in here to point out an important difference from our normal email addresses. This is the normal Sacred Heart Academy email address, except instead of student.shslu.org, it says at appleid.shslu.org. Getting the email address correct here is important in order for students to have the managed Apple ID and all of its benefits. Now, it would be really nice if this was the end of the procedure, but of course, technology always demands more from us. Here's what happens when we log in. The iPad says, "Hi there, D. McGeaney. I know who you are, and I'm going to put that Apple ID right here. I'm going to put it everywhere in this iPad. I'll take that ID and I'll put it into iCloud for you. I'll take that ID and put it into the iTunes and App Store for you. Anywhere that we can sign in, we will do so with this ID." This feature of the iPad necessitates an extra step from us. And here's the reason. We do not want to make any purchases using this Sacred Heart Academy Apple ID. In fact, we turn these Apple IDs off when students graduate, and if they made purchases with that ID, they would lose their books and their music and things that they had paid for. So instead, we log out from the iTunes and App Store, we remove that Apple ID attached to Sacred Heart, and we log back in using a personal or family ID instead. Here's how that works. We click on iTunes and App Store. Then we click the Apple ID up here, and again, note that student is replaced with Apple ID. Okay, so I click right there. I click Sign Out. And at this point, if I have a family or personal ID ready, I could click Sign In and complete the steps. If you don't have one ready right now, that's fine. You'll simply exit out or hit the back arrow or come back to the iPad tomorrow. And when you get to this step, you'll open up the settings gear. On the left side, you'll click on the name. Then you'll click iTunes and App Store. And right here you say not Daniel McGeaney or not the student's name. Of course, I am Daniel McGeaney, but I'm not the Daniel McGeaney that has been signed in everywhere on my iPad. So let me click this. And at this point, let's see, right here it says, okay, sign in with the Apple ID you want to use for the App Store and iTunes. That's exactly what we need to do. We have to sign in to the App Store with our family or personal ID. So here I would click in, I don't know, highschoolphysics@gmail.com. I would click Next at the top. I would enter my password if this were a real account, but it's not, so I will click Cancel. That's the procedure for signing out of the App Store and removing this Sacred Heart Apple ID, and then signing back in using a family or personal account. If you don't have a family or personal Apple ID, you can create one at this web address, appleid.apple.com. After you go here, you can click Create Your Apple ID over on the top right corner. At this stage, you can use any email address for the student to create her personal Apple ID, including, if you wish, kstudent@student.shslu.org. Except this is just a sample email address. you would use your student's account here. So notice if I follow this route, I'm not using Apple ID. At this point, I'm using student. This is one thing you can do if you wish to create a new Apple ID that doesn't have a credit card attached. The general expectation at Sacred Heart Academy is that students are not making extra purchases in the App Store. So there's no requirement to input credit card information, and you can instead leave that information off. So if there's no expectation for students to purchase items in the App Store, then perhaps we wonder, why is it necessary to enter that family or personal ID? And the answer is, students require that personal or family ID right here in order to download their books from MBS. When we purchase an iBook from MBS, they send an email and they put an access code for the book at the bottom of the message. We open our iPad, we launch the Books or iBooks app, and we follow some instructions to enter the access code into our iPad using that Books app. If we have not yet logged in here with a personal or family account, then you will not be able to use that access code from MBS. So performing this step first before we go download those books is really important, and it will ensure that students can successfully download and use the books that we've purchased through MBS. Thanks so much for watching this video, and if you have any questions, don't hesitate to reach out.